All right, so today we are going to talk about the effects of the rising wages on the home care industry. All right, so what do I mean by this? I mean that, let's take politics out of the equation. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, a Trump supporter, a Biden supporter, somewhere in between, or all of the above. It means nothing to me. What does matter to me is the fact that we are living in a time right now where a lot of people, and just very, very much so, all over the spectrum, it doesn't matter what industry it is, all of this talk that's been going on, all of this rhetoric about fair wage, living wage, the fight for 15, as those of you who are supporters of Bernie Sanders or those who follow politics, you know, um, in the end, this fight for 15 has an impact on business. So what's really going on? Well, there's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of speculation, and uh, by a lot of people, some economists and everything else, about what this impact is. First, I gotta say, my opinion. Let's be realistic. I mean, I'm in New Jersey, and I've grown up all my life in New York City and in New Jersey, and I got to tell you, $15 an hour is not a living wage up here. So I believe, and again, because of my company and what I do, I've been doing this for a lot of years. I've traveled all over the country into Canada. I've had, clients in different parts of the world, but in North America, in the US and in Canada, $15 an hour seems like a very arbitrary number to me. I don't know where they got it from. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what the thinking behind $15 was, or how they came up with it, because I've seen all the studies. Adjusting for inflation over the years, minimum wage should really be about 9.50, $10 an hour. I mean, my exact number might not be right, but it's a lot less than 15. And if you want to base it on cost of living, it's really going to depend on where you are. $15 an hour might be great down in Arkansas, you know, or other places. You might be able to live on that. But I know for a fact, $15 an hour isn't going to get you very far in New Jersey. All right. And quite frankly, with the cost of living it's not going to get you far in California either. So some places it might work, but most places that I know of, that I've been to personally, $15 does not work. So what does that mean for the industry? Well, recently I did a video on this a couple of weeks ago when they proposed an amendment to the stimulus package to include the $15. I did a quick video of what some of the impacts are going to be to the home care industry. Just potential. I mean, let's just call it what it is. $15 will become the minimum wage over time, and according to what they wanted in this bill. So, what does this mean for you as a home care agency owner? Well, if at 725, or depending on what it is in your particular state, so the no caregiver wants to work for minimum wage. That's really what it comes down to. So if it's 725, you're probably paying your caregivers and about $9, $10 an hour anyway. Even if your state is a little higher, like 8.50 or $9, you're still probably paying somewhere between $10 and $11 an hour. So the for the most part, and yes, Rick, if the economists do confirm $15 per hour is not beneficial. I'm fully in agreement with that. But again, politics aside, just we're talking about hard numbers. The trend is caregivers don't want that. So what happens all over the media, all over the news, social media, everything else? We have these companies that keep pushing the $15 an hour, and then we have bigger companies like Amazon and BJ's and Sam's Club or Costco pushing 15, and I believe Costco the other day announced a $16 minimum wage for their employees, with a median earning of $20 to $24 an hour. That was in the news at the time of this recording. I think it was over the weekend on like Friday or so. So what does this mean? Well, this means that as a home care agency owner, you're going to have to offer at least $15 an hour in order to attract clients. So that means it doesn't really matter at this point what your state minimum wage is. If you have a clamoring, the market demand for the $15 or for a higher wage than what everyone else is paying, you're going to directly be affected on the recruiting end of it. Because let's be realistic, and if this offends anybody, just that's fine, But at the end, again, realism comes into play. Why would somebody come work for you for $10 or $12 an hour or $13 an hour to get sporadic hours, inconsistency in a work schedule, and have to take whatever abuses may or may not come from working with the elderly? Yes, there is flexibility in the schedule, but why would they do this when they can have a solid 40-hour week going to work for Amazon or somewhere else, for $15, so to make more money? Or in this case, now the trend is going to be for the bigger companies like Costco now offering 16. And this is just going to continue to push the market demand. So how does this affect you? Well, most home care agencies are mom and pop, meaning you guys own the business. Even if you're a franchisee, you own your business, meaning you are responsible for making sure people get paid. So how do you keep your caregivers paid well enough so that you don't end up with staff shortages? Well, unfortunately, the reality is you have to raise your prices. That's just how it goes. You're going to have to compensate because how much are you going to be able to raise your wage before your price just starts making you lose money per hour? Look, if you guys have any doubt on this, I'll link it on this video, but I offer a free training just so you can look at what the difference a dollar makes one way or the other, and when it comes to your margins. I mean, if you're a brand new business, $1 per hour billing can affect your monthly break even by as much as 2 to 3 months in the long term. All right. If you're an established company, your ability to grow and scale your agency could be tremendously affected. Just do the math. If you're billing 1,000 hours a month, okay, which isn't even that much, in the big scheme of things, if you're doing 1,000 hours a month, a $1 difference could mean another employee, another part-timer to help you out. It could mean being able to change locations to better accommodate your existing staff. It could mean a car payment and insurance so that you can now have a wrapped branded vehicle to help grow you more. There's so many things that $1 can make over the course of it. It might mean hiring a better paid marketer or manager so you can walk away from your business and have that freedom that you originally were chasing in your business. So again, I'll link the free training so you could see for yourself down below. And also, we also offer a pricing for profits course, which goes over the intricacies of how to calculate price and maintain your margins by calculating caregiver pay and based on market standards, not based on minimum wage. All of these things are going to greatly affect your ability to do business. So let me ask you, and please leave in the comments somehow, what are you doing to prepare for this? How have you seen this trend where you have caregivers walking in saying, well, I want the $15. I want $16, $17. I'm going to share a story with you guys. I had a client that unfortunately they had to close down because of this very problem. We worked with them for a long time and we kept having to adjust the price and adjust the wages because they're from the state of Washington. In the state of Washington, in the area where they were, the minimum wage was already $15 an hour. And this was shortly after the wage increases went up in the Seattle area. So what ended up happening? Well, they kept having to pay because it got to the point where the caregivers were demanding $18 to $20 per hour, even though the caregivers The minimum wage was 15. The caregivers just, I don't work for minimum wage. I mean, let's be realistic. If you were making minimum wage at $15 an hour, you were doing a lot better than you were when minimum wage was 7.25. You've doubled your income. But still, I don't work for minimum wage. That mentality set in the area. They had to eventually get to the point where they were charging for basic services $42 an hour because their expectation was that much higher. And now let me explain why this is a problem and why 42 is the number that they ended up settling in. And they did well with that for a while until the city started raising the minimum wage again, and in that area, and just the cost got too much. So they decided to pack up. And remember, Washington State was also hit very hard with coronavirus long before most of the rest of the country. So what ended up happening? Well, when their caregivers were starting to make $17 to $20 an hour, all right, they also their nurses, they were using per diem fee for service nurses, and their nurses started demanding more also because, again, you're not going to pay me your lowest skill wage. So if I'm, let's take this example. Caregivers making $10 an hour and your nurse is making 30. Great. So if your caregiver's pay is doubled, what do you think your nurse is going to demand? Your nurse is not going to be happy staying at the same $30. All right, so now they're going to demand 70, 75, 100. I mean, it got to the point where to get a nurse to go and do a start of case, for your average non-skilled client, okay, just to do a standard plan of care, they were charging between $100 and $150 for about 40 minutes of work. So this is the impact. Let's look at your coordinating staff. Let's look at your recruiting staff. Let's look at your internal operations now. What are you looking at? So if your caregiver, which is, for lack of a better way to put it, low man on the totem pole, is making 15 or 17 out there, and that in the example I've been using. All right. Are you going to get your office staff to work for 15? No, they're going to tell you there's no way I'm working for less than a caregiver. So now instead of 17 to 20 for your office staff, you're looking at 20 to 25. Look, $20 an hour is about $39,500 a year. Okay. $26 an hour is 53 and a half or 53 and a quarter. I mean, I don't have a calculator in front of me, so I'm just kind of, doing a ballpark figure here. So, these costs of operations go up tremendously, and you have to be able to compensate, because I'm sorry, but if you're not hitting that 40 to 50% gross margin, you're going to have problems with the rest of your operating costs. Workman's comp. When your pay goes up, workman's comp goes up. When they start demanding, your caregivers start demanding more wages, it's actually going to exponentially grow, because once they make that 15, 16, $17 an hour, they're no longer going to qualify for some of the state benefits that many of them are used to getting, and they're going to expect that you compensate. So you're going to have a double-edged sword there. You're either going to have to raise the wage enough to where they can compensate for all the benefits they're losing from the state, or they're only going to work such a small amount of hours for you that you're going to have issue keeping your client staffed. So you really have to walk a very fine line here. So, all right, so that's enough for this. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave comments below. This is an ongoing conversation that I will probably make a few more videos on this as time goes on, because quite frankly, this is a big issue. And as time goes on, this is going to become a bigger problem in the industry. So unless we see some sort of correction in wages or some sort of adjustment, and we're going to have to walk that line where we're either going to start taking less profit and risk not being able to function, or we're going to have to make serious adjustments to our billing and pay in order to stay in business and have to learn to do more with less clients. All right, thank you very much. And if you're watching the replay or anything like that, please like and subscribe. And look, if you're finding this valuable at all, take the link on the replays on both on the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, or on YouTube if that's where it is, and take the actual link and share it. Let people know that the information is available and out there. All right, thank you again for your support, and we'll talk soon. Have a great one.